Jabari Smith Jr. is one of the most underrated players in the entire NBA, and today I'm going to show you why. He just signed a 5-year, $122 million contract, and if you just looked at his box score, that might confuse you a little bit. 12 points a game on below league average efficiency with only 1.1 stocks per game this past season, but box scores fail to capture the full value of guys like Jabari, so let's dive in and find out why he got paid. We have a lot to get to on both sides of the ball, but my favorite thing about Jabari is his ability to cover ground on defense. Watch that one again. The Rockets are in zone here, and with Steph Curry occupying a guard up top, Jabari's tasked with guarding two guys. So on the kick out, he closes to the gap to take away that one more pass, then he's nimble enough to recover to the drive, and now makes a third effort to contest the shot. That's ridiculous movement. So he's got this crazy combination of agility, length, and speed, and that gives him the ability to effectively be two places at once like this. He can be overly aggressive and help here because even though this looks like a long closeout, he just eats up that space and then uses that 7'1" wingspan to contest, or here he digs down to show two to Shea, then makes Dort think twice and forces him into a heavily contested step back, and that somehow went in. Ignore that. And being able to cover ground like this means he's constantly plugging up holes in Houston's defense. He helps on the drive to start here, then suddenly he's back to his man, now switches and shuts down that drive by Mitchell, and oh, there's a breakdown, but Jabari's there to instantly cover it up. So you can see how his movement skills would translate to him being an excellent off-ball defender. He can just undo mistakes. Like here, there's a miscommunication on the switch, but Jabari just teleports to the shooter and then slides with him on the drive to cut him off. So yeah, this fluid, almost freaky ground coverage is a big part of his defensive profile, but he's not just a really gifted athlete. He's also hyper aware on defense, and when you combine his level of focus and effort with his natural gifts, you get stuff like this, where he's guarding Pat Spencer, but since he's so locked in and always seeing the ball, he's ready to peel off to the cutter and erase the shot at the rim. This is really good reaction time, from the split second he sees the breakdown here to then instantly reacting and making the play, and we'll see a similar reaction here. As soon as Walter grabs the board, you can see Jabari's already loading up to meet him at the apex, and there are those crazy physical tools again, only needing one step to cover all that space and pin it against the glass. Here's some more really nice help where the drive draws two and Yves Missy's left uncovered under the rim, but again, Jabari's just there in an instant to eradicate any advantage, so it's pretty clear that he's an awesome help defender. But what about when he's on the ball? Is he really quick enough to stick with smaller guards? Well, let's take a look. He takes DiVincenzo here, and I think at this point a lot of 6'10 guys would get beat to the rim, but Jabari's able to match Dante step for step, and now comes out and we see more of that help defense, making this uncomfortable for Naz Reid at the rim. Another switch here combined with a nice steal, and I love this one where he's constantly switching the stance, active, ready to go whichever direction he needs to, so he can definitely hold his own on the perimeter. Watch him open up his hips to recover here, and most guys would be absolutely dead in this position, but Jabari can just plant the left and turn back around to wall up. That is incredible mobility for a 6'10" person. Able to stay with Grady Dick here and poke it away for the steal, and I do want to be clear, this isn't a guy that you're going to come out of the gates with matched up with SGA or Luka or someone like that, but he's more than capable out here, and even though he might not be given the #1 defensive assignment, he's extremely versatile in who you can ask him to guard. I know he's skinny, but he actually has a very strong base. Watch him absorb a big bump from Jaren, but keep his balance and still get the block. Another bruiser with Giannis here, and again, he's strong enough to take these bumps and still stay in the play. I think he got a hand on that one too, so even if he's not a top tier one-on-one defender, he's just never going to be a mismatch when guarding the ball. That's really important in today's game, and it's a big part of what's kept him on the floor in big moments early in his career. But he also provides value on the offensive side of the ball, which is the part of his game that made a lot of people think he'd go first overall in the draft. We'll start with the obvious. He has a beautiful jump shot, and at 6'10 with a 7'1 wingspan, he's got this high release that allows him to get shots off over basically any defender. Take a look at this one in transition. There's not a ton of space here, especially with the freakish wingspan of McDaniels, and for a lot of players, this simply wouldn't be an open shot, but for Jabari, he doesn't even think about it, and that's another nice part of his game. He's got a really quick trigger and a ton of confidence in his jumper, so you combine that with the high release, and the defense can't even give an inch or else it's going up. Here's another one in transition, and I just love these. You think you're there as the defender, but he barely even sees you. He's just not worried about Shea's closeout this time and buries another right over top of him. So his shooting isn't just about knocking down wide open catch and shoots. There are lots of guys that can do that and do it more efficiently, but with Jabari, it's more about the ability to make shots despite good defense. And by the way, the Rockets, as well as general Jabari fans like myself, are all expecting him to improve as a shooter. Last season, he shot 35.4% from 3 on 4.9 attempts per game, and his catch and shoot numbers were slightly better at 37.3% on 4.3 attempts a night, and he did have a hot stretch in his playoff debut, going 10 of 22 from 3 over 7 games for 45.5%. And I think it's that kind of stretch that gets people excited about his offense. There's room for improvement, and it's fair to expect it. So we've talked about him being a general floor spacer with that pretty release and quick trigger, but he can also be a guy that you run real sets for. I think he's probably underused in these scenarios, but let's take a look at a few. I like him coming off the pin down here, catching on the move, and quickly squaring himself up to knock it down. He's really good at getting his feet set quickly like this. We'll see that nice footwork in action again here, and he's just a really natural shooter. You can tell he's been a shooter his whole life despite the mediocre percentages. Check this one out. Has to jump and extend to catch this, but then lands with a perfect base and goes directly into his shot, all in one fluid motion. This obviously wasn't a set play, but you can see how that balance and footwork would translate to him running off of screens and being comfortable shooting on the move. Houston also occasionally uses him as a screener in pick and pop or pick and roll actions. Nice finish there, and they run that same play again now. Jabari gets inside position and rolls hard, then shows off the nice Euro. And how about a third time since they can't stop it? This time the defense is much more aware, but Jabari just rises up in the mid-range. So he can be used as a spacer, a screener, a shooter coming off pin downs, and occasionally as a mismatch attacker when he gets smaller guys on him. He really likes these short little fadeaways, and his mid-range game was what had people thinking he could be a superstar before the draft. He can punish smaller defenders with these fadeaways, but overall, he's not an efficient mid-range shooter yet. So now it's time to talk about his areas of improvement. And I don't mind him trying to shoot short mid-range shots over small guys. I just think sometimes he's too quick to settle. He's got deep position on Harden here and just takes a pretty tough one with time on the shot clock. This clip's a bit cut off, but you can see he makes this a lot more difficult than it needs to be. Probably should just go up strong here for the layup. And then on this one, he's got a lot of room to operate. He could maybe drive the baseline, but he's not super comfortable putting the ball on the floor and instead usually opts for the tough two in these spots. And that unwillingness to dribble isn't a decision-making problem. It's more that his handle is a severely underdeveloped skill and something he certainly needs to improve. He's dribbling on the break here and literally looking down at the ground as he goes. Might have had Jalen Green for a layup there, and now he does look up but telegraphs the pass and it's an easy steal. So the lack of confidence in his handle doesn't just lead to getting his pocket picked, though that's a problem too. It also leads to these rushed or inaccurate passes where he's just not comfortable enough with the ball in his hands when he's not either shooting or attacking. But we all know the deal with his handle. I'm not going to kill him too much over it, and honestly, every time I watch him, he's getting more and more comfortable attacking closeouts off the bounce. Since defenses respect him so much as a shooter, he'll get a lot of guys running him off the line, and attacking these closeouts will be key to his next step. And I think that's really all he needs to do, and for the most part, it's all he'll be asked to do in terms of ball handling. So if we zoom out now and look at Jabari's entire skill set, he's a versatile, switchable defender when on the ball, and off the ball, he can cover up holes and breakdowns and just generally cover ground at a very high level. Then, offensively, he's not a lights-out shooter yet, but he takes and makes shots that other guys just simply can't, which means defenses can't give him even an inch of separation, and he's getting better at punishing mismatches and attacking closeouts. To me, all of that amounts to a very good basketball player, someone who will always be able to provide value in high-stakes games, and I think that all that might just make him the most underrated player in the entire NBA. As usual, thank you all for watching. Any likes or comments are hugely appreciated, and I will see you in the next one.